late July of 2015, my daughter, 17 at the time, and I heeded the call to adventure and embarked on our own special quest. That was to enter the world of long-distance backpacking, long-haul hiking. The adventure started on the southern border of Vermont, and over the course of 13 days, we proceeded 163 miles of the long trail's total of 273 miles. The long trail runs the north-south length of Vermont and right along the ridge of the Green Mountains. And when we stepped onto the trail, we stepped into a world of simplified priorities. Most of our mental and physical energy over the course of that trip was devoted to water, food, mobility, and shelter. We also entered a world of easy friendships and dramatically different norms of encountering and interacting with strangers. And it was a world of daily rhythms measured by the metronome of natural cycles, most notably the rising and the setting of the sun. We came out of the woods. Our prize was a new self-awareness, deeper appreciation for others, and a deepened sense of the power and the beauty, and I think the profound significance of expansive wilderness, certainly to us, if not all of humanity. Now, my excitement about this trip really began to rise over the course of studying the map that we would end up using for the entire time on the trail. And it was through this map that I began to discern the poetry of the Long Trail. Long Trail place names are descriptive, mysterious, and sometimes even funny. And I distinctly remember the same feeling of wonder and excitement that I encountered when I studied maps, Middle Earth, in the course of reading Lord of the Rings in my relative youth. And there again, the quest and adventure correspondence is obvious. So for example, our first day en route to the summit of Consultation Peak, we passed west of Scrub Hill. After that, I remember passing Story Spring and wondering if there was perhaps some great story about that spring, or if, more fantastically, it was a spring that gushed stories. Spruce Peak, aptly named Garden Trees, was the location of an incredible sculpture garden. Hikers and backpackers on that mountain use native rocks to build all kinds of folk art and leave behind this weird legacy of art that I'm pretty sure disappears over the course of the winter and then is rebuilt the next summer. Descending into and climbing out of Mad Tom Notch, I wondered how mad this Tom had been, or if in fact Mad Tom was even gone yet. Mount Horrid really was not that horrible. Now, the hikers that traverse this fantastically named landscape also have interesting names. Long trail hikers borrow a tradition from the Appalachian Trail, and that is they give each other, or even take for themselves, special names only for use in that world. And so, for example, our first friend was a guy about my age, hiking the Appalachian Trail in stages. And that is how he spelled it. He went by Colonel Angus. And I really, actually, to this day, don't know his conventional name. On the summit of Stratton, we met a graduate student-age gentleman who was hiking the entirety of the Appalachian Trail in one shot. By the time we met him, as indicated by his tough leanness, he had done 1,700 miles. He went by Snowda. I gave the name Stairmaster to a young man who earned it by virtue of the fact he could carry really heavy weights rapidly up hills. And the previous summer, he was part of a work crew that built a stone staircase that we descended at one point, so we saw his work. My daughter went by Grasshopper, and I took the name Route 7, a reference to Vermont Route 7, a north-south road that goes the length of Vermont, parallel to the Green Mountains, and that through the course of my life has taken me to and from locations of great significance, of great personal significance to me. Now, the word campsite has lots of different meanings in America. On the Long Trail, though, they're primitive arrangements that consist of a open-air shelter, a lean-to, a place for tents, running water, and a concession to the stress that groups of people who use one area frequently, what we call on the Long Trail, a pit privy. These campsites became important places for relaxed conversation and encounters with the other hikers. And that to us was actually something of a surprise, in that we really assumed when we went into the woods it would be, hikers alone in the wilderness. In fact, we met far more people than we expected. And in the course of the ebb and flow of friendship, some social structures became evident. A bubble is when a group of backpackers moving in the same direction, north or south usually, over the course of multiple days, see each other frequently by coincidence. And so at landmarks and campsites, you tend to see the same backpackers. Families form within bubbles. Family is a term for when backpackers begin to actually explicitly plan to be together. And so they meet at campsites, or in some cases even hike together on the trail. And so we joined a family that formed around the nucleus of Colonel Angus, kind of energetic, charismatic guy. And in our family, that family sustained us over some of the more rugged territory. That group of us stayed together over Killington and the Killington Ridge, before eventually descending to Route 4 at mile 104, just east of Rutland. And at Route 4, the family, according to various predetermined plans we all had, broke up. And so Colonel Angus left the trail to rejoin his family, to return next year. Snowda went on the Appalachian Trail, where it broke away from the Long Trail to continue his journey to lead the Appalachian Trail. And so a reduced version of the family, consisting of Grasshopper, Stairmaster, and me, continued north on the Long Trail. And over the course of the next 5 days, we encountered beautiful terrain, but we also hit our first run of really consistent soaking rain. And that's a fact of life in long-distance backpacking. We were ready for it. However, unfortunately, Grasshopper had suffered serious blisters as a result of some excessively tight hiking boots early in the journey. And she ended up with infected blisters, not just blisters, but infected blisters. And those exceeded my ability to administer on the trail my first aid. And so at mile 163, Route 17 in the Appalachian Gap, we made the decision to leave the trail, but we really left the trail with far more of a sense of triumph than disappointment, because we came away with so much of value. And among the various insights, one proceeds from this fact of our world. So I think in this world, we've really diminished the boundary between day and night. So between artificial lighting and more recently our engagement with screens, we've degraded the importance of that transition when the sun sets and it's time to go to bed. And so on the trail, I would wake up, usually naturally and without the aid of an alarm, at 5:30, just as the rosy fingers of dawn were chasing away the darkness. And then Lauren would sleep in until 6 a.m. And then we would hustle around and break camp, usually at 7 a.m., try to be on the trail, hike for 2 hours uninterrupted, and then lapse into a cycle of snacking, drinking water, walking, and repeat until eventual arrival at our campsite around 5 or 5:30. Focus immediately on dinner, cleaning up, and then typically, even before the sunset, we would unroll our sleeping bags. I would struggle to read a few pages of the small paperback novel I had with me, but would inevitably fall rapidly and deeply to sleep, wake up at 5:30 the next day and repeat that cycle. After a week of that, I noticed something really interesting. So I pretty much reorganized my brain around the fact of caffeine, and I usually consume it in the form of coffee, and it gets me through the day. My craving for caffeine diminished considerably. It didn't completely disappear, so I did have maintenance doses, but I didn't need it as much. And it's something else, normally in the early afternoon I'm beset by this sort of fierce urge to take a nap. I rarely indulge that urge, and so on the trail that disappeared as well. what that suggests to me is that when we stray too far from natural rhythms, we pay a physical and health price, because I felt great, for all that I'm hiking 8 hours a day and, all the physical stress of that, it felt great. The other thing we came out of the woods, the other thing we carried out of the woods was a sense of the incredible vitality and, to some extent, also fragility of the forest in which we were constantly walking. So I felt often standing on the trail looking in the forest, and this sense deepened as the trip proceeded. I felt very much like a special guest to a frozen tableau of the life cycle. And so I would look around, and almost at any point on the trail I would see saplings, young trees struggling to put down roots and to establish themselves as viable organisms, and then there would be mature trees that had succeeded in that, bigger trees yet reaching for the sky and competing for available sunlight, dead trees still standing, dead trees on the forest floor, logs that themselves would become a niche for other life and then eventually rot, turn into the soil that would welcome the arrival of seeds, and that cycle would happen again. Now obviously that's not occurring in front of us in real time. However, in terms of the freeze frame aspect of it, you could look around and see some element of that cycle happening, in plant lifetime. And I think that cycle struck me as inexorable and powerful, really elegant and beautiful, but also fragile. We, after days on the road, on the trail, would cross paved roads that seemed impossibly wide and hard, and that carried cars at unimaginable speeds, connecting communities that by definition are in constant process of expansion into the forest. This is not to condemn these things, but they stand out in greater contrast after time in the woods. So in the cathedral-like environment of this forest, the backpackers, I believe, carry with them a subconscious sense of awe and respect. And it's that sense, among other factors, that predisposes the people in the woods really to lean towards each other in mutually supportive ways. There's also out of the woods, the margin for safety between comfort and safety and possible trouble is more evident, and it's a little bit narrow. If you make certain mistakes, you can really be in serious trouble very quickly. And so, with that heightened sense of that narrower margin, there's a pointed observation of the idea that which goes around comes around. And people really help each other. And so we provided help in a number of cases, and certainly received it, particularly with some ointments and extra bandages for Lauren's feet. Now, the concept, or the experience we had that probably corresponds most directly with Jog and Maya, the magic of the world, was something called trail magic. Trail magic is when people from this world cross the border to the world of the trail, bearing with them gifts for the hikers. And so, for example, at a trailhead for a 9-mile stretch, known for its lack of available water and the danger of hikers getting dehydrated, somebody had left a laundry basket with gallon jugs of water. So we topped off our water and entered that portion of the woods confident we would be hydrated the whole time. That day we came off a high ridge, exhausted and hungry, and arrived at a lean-to with some trail magicians who had built a fire, were making s'mores, and they were giving them to backpackers. And there I am, thirsty, a little bit tired, my blood sugar is approaching low, and they had a cooler with them that had cold sodas in it. And I had probably the most memorable Coke of my life. That really hit my bloodstream. And this is not a paid product placement. It's sincere. The trail magicians, in addition to making things appear, made things disappear. They had with them a big black garbage bag. And they invited us to put our garbage in it, which, in our world where we can instantly throw things away, that may not strike you as pretty awesome, but on the trail, you have to carry all your trash out. That's dead, smelly weight. we loved just giving it to them. They made it disappear. And so, as Lauren and I walked away from that site, we talked about how perhaps we would like to pay that forward in Maryland, set up a trail magic station for Appalachian through hikers, and pass that along, because it just had meant so much to us when we encountered it. So, I would like to leave you with this. This is an invitation to enter the world of long-distance backpacking. And I would define that as a trip longer than 7 days. At 7 days, a lot of the magic kicks in. And your ticket to that world would be a willingness to slow down, proceed literally one step at a time, to learn some camping skills, just to ensure your safety and comfort in the woods, and to bring with you, I think, an openness to connection that maybe we'd be reluctant to bring to bear in the normal world. If you do that, you'll come out of the woods, I think, with a deep and primal sense of awe in both the beauty of the wilderness and the potential of people. I will never forget the world long and narrow, a world of human and natural magic. Thank you.